Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and now let's just jump straight into it. What's the TLDR? I want you to first focus on 4K defense for an Aventurine build. Why 4K defense, you might ask? 3 reasons. Firstly, his shield scales off of defense. That is very, very strong. More defense, more chunky shield. Secondly, his damage scales off of defense. So the more defense you have, and the better it gets. Then this will be the part that it comes like, EOD, wouldn't there be like diminishing returns of going too high? On a normal character, yes, because you can put that in much more efficient stats, but for Aventurine, 4K is not a diminishing return because he has one of the best tracers in the game that gives him up to 50% crit rate. You heard it right, 50% crit rate just from having a lot of defense. In fact, it's so massive that every 100 defense that you drop from 4,000 defense is a 2% crit rate loss. That is a 4% CV, which is basically almost 1 row. If you spend your whole day farming relics, don't be anything less than 4k defense basically. So it depends on whether you're watching this when Aventurine is live or before. If you are watching it live, it's very easy to see because he's right on your screen. But for us, because this video is pre-recorded as of Akirion's banner right now, you can use 5MC as a proxy. Everyone has this particular character. You get quite similar in terms of results. Both are preservation, they can use a lot of gear. Of course, Aventurine will give you a much higher. I expect the number to be like, if I'm having 4k here, probably it's like 4.2, 4.3. So aim for somewhere around 3.7, 3.8, probably you're more or less good to go because Aventurine has 5-star stats and also a bit more tracers that they give him more defense percentage as well. So that is one thing that I want you to know. Everyone can use this character. Now, that aside, 4K aside, that's when now it becomes a bit more varied. Depending on what team comps you're using and depending on what gear that you have. Because everyone has different defense gear. For me, I have god tier defense gear because that's all I get on this account. But jokes aside, let's first talk about main stats. Don't worry about set bonus first and Lightcones. If you are looking at this, why am I using this texture of memories? Isn't there a lot better Lightcone? I'll explain that as we go along. Let me talk about some more important things first and then slowly it get less and less important and more varied. The most important thing, and ignore like these sets over here, though I'll talk about all of these later on. I want you to focus on is the main stats. In order to get 4k defense on Fire MC, I found that I needed a defense, and a defense. So 4 defense in order to hit the 4k threshold. Depends on your account, depends on what your gear you have. First priority, 4k defense. Second priority, set bonuses. Then after that, third priority is the main stat. That will be my 3 order, the order of what I'm focusing on. And I'll talk about how it deviates. So hopefully you are still with me. I'll repeat that again. First thing that you want is 4k defense. Secondly is going for the main stat, the set bonuses that you want. Only after you lock in these 2, then you deviate into, can I change this defense planisphere into imaginary planisphere? Can I change a defense link rope into energy restoration rate? All those questions come after you have met the first 2 requirements, which is what I want most of you to understand. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just go for defense all the way first. You really can't go wrong. And as you gear up better, this is where it starts to deviate, and I hope you guys are ready for it. If you are Aventurine mains, you probably want to like listen up a bit more. If you just want a shielder and you just want him to be chunky, you want easy to build, you probably are good enough with the advice that we've given. And that's all about this channel. I like to give you all the important stuff first. And like and subscribe, of course, if you like this kind of content that's right, just direct, straight to the point. So now, let's talk about the second part first, which of course is what sets do you use? And this really depends on one, whether you can meet the 4k stat requirement. So let me just go into the synthesis menu here and passerby of all these synthesis. Apologies for it being blanked out. I actually spent quite a bit of resources finding a defense main stat. But first things first, let's say you hit the 4k requirement already, or you haven't. In that case, you want to look for stuff that gives you that 15% additional defense. So what can give you that 15%? You will probably want to run a 2-piece as you go into your final set, which will be Knight of Purity Palace. I won't recommend you go for a full 4-piece of this because his shield is already going to be super thick when you have 4k HP. Rather, I want to have a transition build to move him into more DPS. So the 4k rule and getting the main stat right is actually to help him be a hybrid defense unit and an offensive unit. 4-piece Knight of Purity Palace is missing his offensive point, which is the whole reason why you pick him instead of a lot of other supportive units in the game. So if you have trouble hitting that 4k, even with like 4 main stat gear with defense, or maybe you must run imaginary for some reason, you can't find gear, Go a 2-piece of Knight of Purity Palace, it helps you bridge the gap a little bit. But what set I really like is actually Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters. This is super good because you gain 12% damage straight up. You gain a little bit of crit rate, which he doesn't really care too much about because he already gets a lot of crit rate from his Trace ability, like 50 whopping percent. That's insane. And at the same time, you get a bit more damage if your enemies are inflicted by debuff. He has Unnerve, and if you have the Lightcone Trend of Universal Market, he also is able to burn the enemies, and then means he's able to like get even more value out of this 4-piece. If you're running together with a debuff comp, maybe together with like Doctor Ratio, you probably will be running a debuffer here and there, and that allows you to like maximize the overall value. So any team with like Akirion, Doctor Ratio, you're playing him together in these kind of comps, and you already revolve around multiple debuffs, Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters is perfect. And one of the best parts about this set is all your crit damage, crit rate, attack, godlike gear can go over to your main DPSs, and then all the leftover crumbs like your defense gear that are just very weirdly equipped, you can just slap it on Aventurine in the meantime. So it gives you a lot more account-wide efficiency. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. But if you are going for a transition set, I think one that is pretty interesting is like a two-piece Ash Blazing Grand Duke. Here you get a nice 20% follow-up attack. It's not the best, I wouldn't say it's like top recommended, but 4k first, if you can hit that 4k threshold, then consider going over to Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters. Otherwise, I think a 2-piece for Ash Blazing Grand Duke is okay. A 2-piece Wastelander Banditry Desert is okay as well. And of course, 2-piece Knight Purity Palace. These are all very, very solid options. One reason why God of Wuthering Snow I didn't really raise it much is when your shield is already so massive with 4k defense, the damage reduction doesn't really matter that much if you think about the other stats that you could be having instead. So that is the TLDR of the 4-piece. I like 4-piece of Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters a lot, and I think you will like it too because it fits a lot into playstyles. The only other option that I am considering is a 4-piece, or only 2 other options, is a 4-piece Wastelander of Banditry Desert. This is a bit more niche, so I'll make it quick. If you are playing Imprison comps where you can hit the full entire debuff, I think this will likely be better. But of course, very, very few of you will be playing pure imaginary teams that you always imprison enemies. But if you are, this is an option that you can go for as well. It might be a lot cheaper to get this because a lot of people want the Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters since they can't really use the full effect of Wastelander Banditry of Desert. So that is one angle to go about. You have to imprison enemies. Otherwise, the last one I want to talk about is Longevous Disciple. This one is interesting because with this and his trace, you pretty much never need crit rate ever again. It gives you 16% crit rate here. With his trace, you get like 50%. So you pretty much are already topped off for the amount of crit rate that you can get. But this is of course a bit more niche also. It's just very efficient to farm this set because you have Messenger traversing Hackerspace. You do sacrifice a bit on damage and getting to that 4k defense threshold because it's HP percentage here. So that's for the 4-piece. For the 2-piece here, what will I aim for? Once again, if you're struggling to hit the 4k mark, you can use Belobog of Architects to help you. In fact, I think these 2 pieces are a lot more easier to get. You probably can just run a couple of times and easily find like a defense somewhere here and there. Don't bother like changing in the shop for it. The Belobog of Architects is not too useful. You'll switch out of it very fast. You get 15%. You probably won't hit this 50% effect hit rate on Aventurine, but if you do, you get an extra 15%. You can slap on double defense to help you reach there. But I don't really like this too much actually. In fact, I think one that is really, really interesting, it's probably Broken Kill. As you know, Effect Rest is very, very strong for Aventurine because he only has 1 CC block for himself. And if you put on this Effect Rest a little bit more, he also gains a lot of Effect Rest, helping you hit like near 100% with this 30% that you get, and like the his ability when he puts up his shield and stuff. I think the talent gives him extra when you use your ult or something, like 65%. So you're close to 100% effect rest. At the same time, you're buffing your whole team crit damage by 10%. That's very, very huge. So Broken Kill, great supportive set. Other than that, what do I think? I think Broken Kill is like pretty strong. There are a few other options that you can go for. I think it's probably the energy restoration sets like Sprightly Von Weck, which gives you 5%. And if you're playing imaginary teams, Panacani Land of Dreams is also pretty decent because if you're playing Doctor Ratio and Aventurine, you are buffing Doctor Ratio already. That's one thing to note. The other thing probably will be like Inert Salsoto, I guess. Inert Salsoto is probably okay, but this thing gives you a lot of crit rate, which most of the time I don't think you really need. It buffs like follow-up damage, out damage and stuff like that. But this crit rate could be a overcap. So you have to look at your overall count. Generally, I think that Broken Kill is going to be a lot better because if you check out our like team comp video on Aventurine, a lot of his team comp have multiple DPSs, which means you get a lot of value of this crit damage 10% going to every single character on your team. This is super strong. It stacks as well, so you can have like multiple of these from even your support. If you're a Sparkle Bronya, they also get this 10% on top of that. So I really like this one personally, and that will be like my recommendations for the Relic sets to go for. And that's like the second priority. So now that we have gotten away from like all of that, here comes probably like the third priority. What main stats to choose? And in order to understand the main stats, we also have to consider Lightcones. But just so that this video flows more smoothly, let's talk a bit about like the main stats first. The first thing, let's say we start off with everything 4-piece defense, right? What is the first thing that I'll change? Probably I'll go into here, the Planisphere, and switch out a defense Planisphere into imaginary damage bonus. This switch, like let me just show you right here. I'm just going to switch the thing. Straight away, you will see a huge gain in value because imaginary damage bonus is like really multiplicative of whatever you get. But as you can see, we dropped straight away like 3.5k from like 4k exactly. So there's a massive drop. So this won't be that great, but I'm just showing you what you can do. The first priority I will do is switch the Planisphere over to imaginary damage bonus. The second one that I will ideally go for is switching from a defense body over into a crit damage body. This is only if you have like God tier defense rolls. As you can see, I'm like no defense rolls at all. So of course this will be a huge DPS loss, but this will allow you to have a lot more damage coming for your Aventurine as long as you can keep close to that 4k. Maybe you have also great crit rate rolls and you're overcapping on crit. In that case, it could be an option as well. But then again, if you have great crit rate rolls, you might want to give that to your DPS. Give the like defense shittier rolls one to a character that doesn't really require that much crit rate because he caps off very quickly as well. So something like this, I'll probably will put on Aventurine. So I'll like switch this over. Of course, this will be like the 2 order. And some of you will notice, why do I not care about the speed as well as the link rope? Let's talk about the link rope first because it's a lot easier to explain. Link rope here, actually, he only has like 110 burst cost requirement, which is very, very low. For lower burst cost characters, when you have energy restoration, the multiplied effect in absolute terms is a lot less. You will basic attack is like somewhere around like 20, or use your skill once. So basic attack skill is like 20, 25, like 50, and then like plus another 30 or something like that. I have to do the math on a calculator, and you can see that roughly 3 turns you're more or less set for 110 burst cost energy regardless of what gear you use. If you're trying to push for a 2-turn rotation, I would say don't really force it because preservation characters have pretty high aggro, which is why I don't think a link rope of energy restoration rate in totality is going to make a lot of difference. I would much rather you find that 4k stat first, and link rope is probably my lowest priority to shift to an energy restoration rate. If you think about it, how much does it give you? 19%? How much energy is that? It gives you like 4 energy more. 4 energy for a basic attack, or like 6 energy for a basic attack or skill, compared to a 54% defense difference. I would think I would much rather that defense so you can get the crit rate as well. And it's not easy to get 4k defense either. So link rope, lowest priority. Other than that, the boots. Why do I say is like this is the second lowest priority gear to switch? Is because he has follow-up attacks. So he doesn't really care too much about speed. Speed only just helps him get his outback faster and use it to unnerve enemies, to debuff enemies and stuff like that. But overall, he can do quite a lot of utility on the field from his follow-up attacks because he gets his passive bonus when he's attacked or his teammates are attacked. So this one I would say is like, you could change it to speed if you have super godlike ones, but will probably be my second lowest priority gear to change. And ideal, let's talk about ideal world, since we said a bit of a mouthful. If you can get to an ideal world where you can actually hit like 4k defense, what will be my ideal stat speed? Crit damage, speed, imaginary damage, and energy restoration rate. This will be my ideal in a perfect world. He becomes a DPS main stat that looks something like that I really like. With 4k defense. But as you can see, reality hurts, right? You won't have 4k defense unless you have maybe a S5 Lightcone or something like that, or maybe a character that buffs defense in future. Who knows? But anyways, that will be probably my ideal choice for the relics, and I hope that combination helps. Let's talk about the next thing, which is equally important, which is the Lightcones. Let me just give you a quick summary of the Lightcones. If you are confused what to go for, you can always start off with Texture of Memories for a very, very high amount of base stats, because it gives you 529 defense. It's very, very massive. Unfortunately, in the subs here, it doesn't do anything for him much other than a bit of effect rest in case you are trying to hit the threshold for broken kill. Gives you like this shield which he doesn't really require. It reduces the damage, which is not very critical for its playstyle. So Texture of Memories is like your plain vanilla just for a stat stick. Other options that you can consider would depend on the team composition that you're going for. Let's start off with something super general that everyone can benefit from, everyone will understand, is Destiny Threats for Woven. This is the free-to-play Lightcone here. You can get it at S5. It's effect rest and you drop a little bit of defense. Hopefully you can still hit your 4k with a slight drop from the memory or the simulated universe Herta Shop Lightcone. But this gives you a lot more damage. So for every 100 defense the wearer has, you increase your damage by 1.2. So this one goes all the way up to like 48%, but we only will have and it ties in very nicely because like 4k times 1.2 is like 48%. So it's just nice for Aventurine. It's like as if it's made for Aventurine or something. They already planned it in advance. But this is quite solid. You get a good amounts of damage, hybrid between defensive and offensive just by switching to this Lightcone here. It's free, so anyone can pick it up as well. You don't have to stress about a lot of things. Two other options that I want to talk about is the Trend of Universal Market. This is a bit more niche. Note that it has very low amounts of defense. 396. This is very, very low. It's almost a whole whopping 100 defense lower than the free Herta Shop Lightcone. But it gives you a lot of it back in the substat. So you get 16% back, so it bridges a little bit. But of course, base is a lot better than multiplicative because base stacks with all the other defense gear that you're using. When the wearer is attacked, has a chance to burn the enemies, this turns Aventurine into an even better debuffer. If you want to like get the stacks of Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters, you're playing with Akirion for example, or you just want to dish out more damage that scales off with defense, he generally has very high defense, so you can do like a massive amount of burn. But personally, I won't really depend on this DOT because he gets a lot of crit rate, and DOTs can't crit. So playing him into a crit DOT team is probably like just explains how versatile he is, but might not be the best because he gets a lot of crit and doesn't mind playing for a crit damage kind of team composition, crit damage kind of build. I think follow-up team compositions are likely where he's going to shine a lot more, as we see his combos with Topaz and Nambi too. So that is for Trend of Universal Market, definitely usable, but depends on your comp that you're using him for. Other than that, this is me. This is a Battle Pass Lightcone, so I'll make it snappy. I'll talk about the Japad one in a little bit. This is very, very good. If any of you who are wondering, and you have this, like maybe you picked it up along the way by accident, it gives you a whopping 529 defense. This is on par with the Herta Shop Lightcone. And at the same time, it gives you a 16% defense, helping you hit that 4k mark very, very easily. If any of you have this, slap it on. It increases the damage the wearer deals when they use their ult by 60% of wearer's defense also. So it's also great. It has some offensive use. It's also a massive stat stick. This is an upgrade for the Herta Shop Lightcone. Unfortunately, it costs us like what, 10 bucks, 15 bucks or something like that. But that's an option available. So why am I not talking about Landau's Choice much is I don't think the damage reduction here is very, very important. It's nice to have the additional aggro, but the damage reduction really doesn't matter. And the defense is quite low at 396 over here. Day 1 of my new life is nice, but he's going to have a lot of defense already. You don't really care too much about this all-type rest that you give your entire team. These stats are of course very nice, but if you don't have any other of the other options built, you are strapped on gear, you can slap Day 1 of my new life. It's still a very, very strong Lightcone, even at super in position 1. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's useless, I'm just saying that the other ones might be a lot more efficient for your account because these two other Lightcones, Day 1 of my new life and Landau's Choice, can be better maximized by other characters on your account too. So that brings me to probably the last one, which I want to talk about is Moment of Glory. Some of you probably pulled this out or thinking about picking it up, how good it is. First of all, I want to say it has massive amount of defense. This slapping on this Lightcone allows you to go through the priority tool very quickly. Like, you know, when you're trying to swap out your set to get a better set, when you hit that 4k defense with this gear much quicker, you are able to go for your ideal main set. I easily can swap out for a imaginary damage bonus and stuff because it gives you a huge, not only it gives you 595, which is almost like 20% higher than Herta Shop Lightcone, it also gives you a 24% wearer defense. It's just super massive. Makes him like huge already without having to like switch around all 4 defense gear. At the same time, you get effect hit rate, which is not the best, not fantastic. It does help you hit Battle Box, the effect of 50% hit rate for some reason if you're still running that main stat. and of course increases the wearer's to be attacked. This is great because the more he gets attacked, the more stacks that Aventurine gets as well. And of course, when the wearer is attacked, you increase their defense even more. You might overcap on your defense passing that 4k with this second part, but at least you do more shielding and more damage too. So I don't see this as very bad. In fact, I think probably for a free-to-play player, if you have no other choice, other than for Trend of Universal Market, I probably will recommend Moment of Glory as his best in slot for a free-to-play player who's not planning to pick up his signature Lightcone and don't want to run Trend of Universal Market for its users too. It's just very good amounts of stats. So now that that's done, I want to talk about a very simple team building tip that I have. A lot of you who started the game will always put your preservation units, abundance units to the side, or aggro drawing units to the side, like whoever it is. For Aventurine's case, I will be switching him right into the center, and the reason for that is when you draw aggro right here and your shield is so thick throughout your whole entire team, you actually funnel energy to your other characters. Maybe Akirion is a bad example because she doesn't need energy, but something like this, where I put Aventurine here, the preservation characters have a higher chance of drawing aggro. Any splash attack will basically give energy to Ranmei and Kafka, as you can see here on this formation. So don't put him on the side, put him in the center where the energy characters that need the energy are right beside. It increases the overall restoration for your overall team. Even more so if you have aggro drawing stuff like Moment of Victory, the Japad Lightcone, or Landau's Choice. Those increase it even more. And if you guys want like team compositions, we went quite a bit in depth in terms of all the team compositions you can go for Aventurine. I highly encourage you to check out this video right here. Very, very useful. And if you are thinking still on the fence about Aventurine, check out this video where we compare him to another meta character, which is Fucc. If you guys are sitting on the fence, check that video out. And thank you guys so much for watching again. If you appreciate straight to point content, like and subscribe for more such future videos.